All right, so we will start our practice today reclining down on our backs. And you want to make sure that you have 2 blocks and a blanket. You're welcome to use that blanket to pad up the head here. And if you're following along with my music selection, I'll cue you when to start that because I usually don't start my classes with music. All right, so reclining on down. Again, patting up the head with a little bit of support if you'd like. And our class today is going to be hip focused. My hips have been a little cranky these last few days, so sort of what my body's craving, so hopefully it's helpful for you all as well. And as you're just relaxing in here, start to take a few deep rounds of breath. And as you lengthen those inhales, lengthen out those exhales. And see if you can start to invite that breath to travel all the way down into the pelvis. As if you could breathe into those hips there. Before we start getting into some work here, if you'd like to set a dedication or intention for your practice this morning, you can find that here. And perhaps just reminding yourself that this time on your mat is a nice pause. Some time for you to check in with yourself, nourish your body the way that it needs. You're of course welcome to stay in stillness for as long as you'd like. If you're ready to begin to move, we'll draw those knees in towards the chest. Maybe rock a little from side to side here, make circles with the low back. And then keeping those knees drawn in towards the chest, maybe take the knees a little bit wider towards the edge of the body here. We'll just pause here for a moment to really tune into those hips. And just to notice what you're feeling here in the hips as we pause for a moment. There's a little bit of compression on the front side of the hip as those legs are pulling in. If there's any discomfort, maybe change the position of the legs just slightly to see if you can make it a little bit more easeful. Just kind of scanning in the lower part of the body here, somewhat of a reference point. We'll check back in with this position at the end of our class as well. So noticing if there's any spaces that feel a little tight. I'm just getting a general sense here. Before we move the legs out of this position, take a few more rounds of breath here and see if you can feel that expansion of the lower belly against the thighs here with each inhale. Finishing off your final round of breath here. And we'll go ahead and plant those feet down. Take the feet a little bit wide towards the edges of the mat, so that way you can find that little tick-tock from side to side. Arms can rest out like a T or overhead, wherever's comfortable for you. Next time those legs fall over towards the right, we'll pause here for a moment. We're just getting started, so no reason to push anywhere, but for me, it feels kind of nice if I direct my left knee, the inner edge of that left knee down towards the mat here. I'm able to find a little bit of a stretch sensation through the top left part of the leg. And we'll gently tick-tock those legs from side to side again. Once those legs fall over to the left, we'll pause there for a moment. And a nice gentle twist. Perhaps find that little activation of the inner edge of that right knee pulling down towards the mat. Take it easy here. It can be a little strange on the knee. Gently pulling those legs back up through center, perhaps tick-tocking a few more times here. And then bringing those feet in so that way you can find them planted down on the ground a little bit more comfortably here with those knees pointed up towards the ceiling. And then we'll start with the left leg. So right foot stays planted. The left knee is going to draw in towards the chest here. And with that left knee drawn in towards the chest, make sure the pelvis is a little bit stable. You have that right foot to help stabilize you here. And you'll take that left hand onto right above the knee, so just onto that left thigh. And then you'll start to fire up some work here where you're pressing that left thigh into the left hand and that left hand into the left thigh. So nothing's moving here. It's just that active press, equal in opposite directions here. Maybe point or flex through that foot to actively work the entire leg. You're still pressing that left hand into the leg and the leg into the hand. Make sure you're still breathing here as well. We're holding here for another 3. Another 2. And 1. Go ahead and release that left leg down. The left foot plants down. Right knee draws in towards the chest, just to a comfortable degree here. And notice how your spine feels against the mat here. So finding that right hand up against the top edge of that right thigh. And just kind of notice the shape of the back supported by the mat here. And then as you start to find that work of pressing the leg into the hand and the hand into the leg, notice what starts to happen in the spine and how things kind of start to move here as you find that active press. And if you find that the back is rounding a lot away from the mat, maybe see if you can pull that spine down towards the mat just a little bit. Finding that activation through that right foot to help you find kind of that maximum press of that right hand into the right leg and the right leg into the right hand. We're breathing here for 3, for 2, and 1. Go ahead and release out of that. If you need to tick-tock the legs, feel free. All right, so setting up again, that right foot stays down. The left knee is going to come up. The left foot is going to come up. And this time, start with that knee directly over the hip. So it's probably a little bit further away from you than when you draw it in towards the chest. You'll start to find that active press of that left hand into the left leg here, right above the hip. And then this time, you're still pressing in both directions, but allow that left leg to win a little bit. So you're resisting the the leg away with the hand, but you're letting that leg win just slightly so that way you can start to bring that left knee in towards the chest. Whew. A little bit of resistance work here. Good. Once you have that left knee in as far as you can, you still have that active press of that left hand into the left knee. We're holding here for 3, for 2, and 1. Slowly release that left leg down, kind of shake it off. Wiggle out any cramps you might have. Then we'll set up for the other side. So left foot stays planted. Again, you're starting with that shin just kind of parallel to the mat here. The right knee is directly above that right hip. As you start to find that strong press of that right hand into the right leg. Keep that press, but allow the leg to win here. So as you're resisting that leg away with the hand, the leg is coming in closer towards the chest. Ooh, the lower part of my leg is freaking out here. Keep that active press as you're slowly winning with that leg. Make sure you're still breathing. Whew. All right, go ahead and release that leg down. Kind of shake it off here. If you need to straighten the legs out, feel free. Drawing the knees in towards the chest again, maybe finding a little rock from side to side. And then we'll start to make our way up to tabletop position, hands and knees. You can choose to rock and roll up and down the spine, or maybe roll off to one side. And then once you've hit that tabletop, we'll take a few rounds of our cat-cow. You all are familiar, just starting to warm up the spine here. Inviting some movement into the body, maybe rolling out the neck or adding in any extra movements that you need. And taking one more round of breath to move through the spine in your cat-cow. And then from your tabletop, we'll step that right foot forward between the hands, setting up for your low lunge. And then go ahead and walk the hands up the upper thigh here, so that way you're in a nice tall lunge stance. And here in this position, you want to make sure that the leg isn't that back leg isn't too far back behind you, so you're not really dipping the hips super low. You're kind of keeping those shoulders and hips directly over that back. And then pausing here in this lunge, start to really fire up that press down into your right foot. And then imagine that that left knee is pulling forward as that right foot is pulling back. So almost like a scissoring action here. You can come in and out of that activation as you need, but we'll hold here for 3 more rounds of breath. Feeling that active drag of the legs forward and back. We're here for another 2. Good. Go ahead and release that work out of the legs. Might be nice here to either walk that front foot forward or slide your back knee a little bit back. The left hand is going to come down as that right arm opens out into the twist here. So just allowing it to feel a little good, maybe drop the hips slightly. Start to frame that front foot with the hands as you shift back through your tabletop position. Left foot steps forward between the hands here. Walking the hands up the thigh, bringing the head and chest up nice and tall. Again, finding that alignment of the hips and shoulders directly over that back knee. Pressing down actively through that front left foot. Start to find that work of that right knee dragging forward as that left foot is pulling back here. So they're working in opposite directions. Feeling a little bit of work through the front side of that right hip. Again, finding that nice lift up through the upper body. Keeping those legs tractioning towards each other. We're here for about 2 more slow rounds of breath. From here, that right hand releases down to the inner edge of that left foot. Might be nice to walk that knee back just slightly so that we can drop those hips a little low. The left arm reaches up for a nice twist, or maybe just wrap it behind the low back. Releasing the left hand down, shifting back through your tabletop. Bringing the big toes to touch here, knees come a little bit wide. Go ahead and shift back to that child's pose. You can support the forehead with the hands here, maybe just reach the arms long. And of course, pausing here is that gentle reminder that you're welcome to take breaks as you need throughout class. Find variations that work best for you in each pose. And also pausing here, just like we did at the beginning of class when we were down on our back with the knees in towards the chest. This is a similar shape, right? It's just a different relationship with gravity. So perhaps tuning into the hips here, just noticing how it feels in your child's pose compared to when you were down on your back. And it's not about finding any crazy answers to anything. It's just taking the time to notice and experience the body. We'll start to make our way up here. So starting to shift your way up through tabletop. Go ahead and tuck those toes under. We'll draw the hips up and back for your first downward facing dog. You can work through those feet as you need here. Alternate bending the knees, wagging the hips from side to side. Perhaps hinging forward and back through that plank pose a few times. We will take a few rounds of warm-up A here. Just to kind of tune into the breath a little bit more. Before we do that, go ahead and release the hands, walking them back towards the feet to find that forward fold at the back of the mat. Allowing the head and shoulders to be heavy. Releasing the arms if you took a variation. We'll slowly roll up that spine one vertebrae at a time. Inhale, sweeping the arms up. And exhale, hands come heart center. Go ahead and take a walk up to the top of your mat here. We'll start our warm-up A's from standing at the top of the mat. So pausing for a full round of breath here. Nice big inhale. Full exhale. Inhale, sweeping the arms up. Exhale, long dive over those legs. Inhale, halfway lift. And then exhale, plant those hands. Make your way back to downward facing dog. Feel free to move through that plank pose or your vinyasa. I think you both are familiar with all those options from last week. So getting what you need here, we'll meet in down dog for a few rounds of breath. From down dog, next inhale prepares. Exhale brings you up to the top of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Fold it back in. Big sweep all the way up to stand. And then hands come heart center. Inhale, the arms sweep up. Exhale, long dive over those legs. Inhale, halfway lift. And then plant the hands and we'll meet in downward facing dog. And moving with strength and intention with whatever you choose here. One more round of breath in dog. Inhale, prepares. Exhale brings you up to the top of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Fold it back in. Big sweep all the way up to stand. And hands come heart center. Inhale, sweeping the arms up. Long dive over those legs. Inhale, halfway lift. And then plant the hands while meet in downward facing dog. So just taking one more round, we'll get it right away here, but no rush. Once you hit that down dog, inhale, prepares. Exhale brings you up to the top of the mat. Halfway lift. Fold it back in. Big sweep all the way up to stand. And hands come heart center. Biggest breath yet. Inhale, sweeps the arms up. Long dive over those legs. Inhale, halfway. And then plant the hands. We'll meet in downward facing dog. Pausing here in our down dog before we get into our next flow. So if you'd like to release the knees down for a moment, feel free. And starting to make your way back up to downward facing dog. If you do have a block, it might be nice to have it near the top of your mat, as eventually we'll find a triangle pose. So if you know you like to have that prop for that pose, have it handy. Of course, getting into our chairs before our lunges. Inhale, prepares. Exhale brings you up to the top of the mat. Finding that halfway lift. Fold it back in. And then knees bend deep, arms sweep up, chair pose. We're holding here in chair. This first round, we'll add on just a little bit, but bringing those hands heart center, probably to help with the balance here. You'll press down strong into that left leg, so that way you can extend that right foot out in front of you, and then allow that heel to drop. So it's just like a little kickstand here. That left knee is still nice and bent, and that's where the majority of your weight is. Check in to make sure you still have a little strength through the belly here, that length through the spine. Go ahead and plant that right foot down. Keeping that right knee nice and bent, the left leg will extend out in front of you so that way you can tap that left heel down. Just pausing here. I don't have a creative name for this chair. I'll come up with one soon, I'm sure. Whew. Yeah, you can feel that work in that bent leg. Planting the left foot down, meeting in full chair pose. We're here for 3, for 2, and 1. Fold it in. Inhale, halfway lift. And then plant the hands. We'll meet in downward facing dog. From down dog, inhale reaches the right leg up. Exhale steps it through for crescent pose. So coming all the way up to that nice high lunge here. Arms sweep up, or you can always bring them heart center. Here in your crescent lunge, those hips and shoulders are facing forward. Perhaps, no, not perhaps, let's all do this. Go ahead and bend a little bit through that left knee. So you can imagine that left knee dropping down towards the mat here. And then from this position, start to find a little bit of that tilt of the tailbone forward towards the back side of your front right knee. So it'll just get a little bit of that curve out of the low back. See if you can hold on to that work as you start to press that left heel back behind you again. So that'll serve to straighten that front knee-ish. It might not go, back knee. It might not go all the way straight. Yeah, feeling a lot of sensation through the front side of that left leg. Sweep the arms up if you'd like. And then plant the hands. We'll meet in downward facing dog. From your down dog, inhale lifts the left leg. Exhale, steps the foot through, crescent pose. Sweeping the arms all the way up. Perhaps bringing those hands heart center. Starting to put a little bend in that back right knee, so that back right knee points down towards the mat here. See if you can take a little bit of that curve out of the low back by imagining that tailbone scooping towards the back side of that left knee. Now see if you can hold on to that position of the pelvis as you start to reach that right heel back behind you, and it'll straighten that right knee just a little bit, but the pelvis doesn't move. That'll find that big stretch sensation through the front side of that back right leg. Perhaps reaching the arms up. Oh yeah, feeling that front left leg working for you here as well. And then plant the hands. We'll meet in downward facing dog. Pausing here in down dog for a few rounds of breath. Bringing it up to the top of the mat again. Inhale, prepares. Exhale, brings you to that forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Hold it back in, knees bend deep, arms sweep up, chair pose. You can keep those hands reaching or bring them heart center. Keeping that left foot planted. That right foot is going to extend out in front of you so that way you can tap that right heel down. So the right knee is straight-ish. You're keeping a bend in that left knee. Keep everything exactly as it is. So doing your best to keep the spine where it is, the pelvis where it is. You'll start to lift that right foot off the ground as if you were going to bring those right toes towards your face. Yeah, but you're not allowing the spine to curve here. Go ahead and release that right foot down. Keeping that leg nice and straight, keeping the spine as it is. Start to reach those right toes up towards the ceiling. Yeah, a little cramp in that right quad, release it down. Last one here, lifting that right leg up. Woo, breathing for 3, for 2, and 1. We meet in chair pose. Reach the arms up, and forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. And then plant the hands. We'll meet in downward facing dog. Woo, kind of shake that leg off when you get to down dog. Inhale, reaches the right leg up. Exhale, steps it through for that crescent pose, coming all the way up. And then opening out to warrior 2. Good, feels kind of nice to get that front right hip opening. See if you can find that little activation of that right knee pulling towards the wall behind you or towards the baby toe. Doesn't have to actually move that way. It's just finding that work in the leg. The arms are actively reaching, shoulders are just over the hips here. One more inhale in your warrior 2. As you exhale, plant the hands down. Make your way back to that downward facing dog. From down dog, inhale lifts the left leg. Exhale, steps it through to crescent pose. From your crescent pose, we open out to warrior 2. Adjusting those feet, finding those firm points of contact between the balls of the feet and the heels. Actively seeking that opening of that left hip. So feeling that left knee pull open behind you. If you have the arms reaching, there's energy out through those fingertips. Exhales, ground down through the legs. Inhales, find a little bit of length up. Nice strong legs here, big breath in. And then plant those hands. We'll meet in downward facing dog. Again, pausing in down dog for a few rounds of breath before we set this up for our final round here. Bringing it up to the top of the mat again, so making your way into downward facing dog. Inhale, prepares. Exhale, brings you forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Fold it back in. Knees bend deep, arms sweep up for that chair pose. And this time that right foot stays planted, right knee stays bent. Left leg extends out in front of you. So that way that heel can tap down. You need to bring the hands heart center onto the hips, feel free. Keeping the right leg exactly as it is, keeping that spine as it is. Finding your balance. Then we start to lift that left foot up as if you were gonna touch those toes towards the ceiling. They might not go very far. Tap that left heel down. We got two more. Make sure you still have that right leg nice and bent as you lift that left foot up. Tap the left foot down. Finding that length through the spine, that bend in the right knee. Keep all of that. Lifting those left toes up towards the ceiling. We breathe here for 3, for 2, and 1. Plant that left foot down. We meet in chair pose, sweeping the arms up. Last chair of the day. We're here for 3, for 2, and 1. Forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift, and plant those hands. We'll meet in downward facing dog. From dog, inhale reaches that right leg up. Exhale, steps the foot through, finding crescent pose. From crescent, we open out to warrior 2. From your warrior 2, straighten up that front right leg. And then before we reach into our triangle, let's heel toe that back foot in a little bit, just to create a slightly shorter stance here. Then reach long through those right fingertips. Right arm comes down, left arm reaches up. Giving those legs a little bit of a break by walking those feet in a little bit closer. Just changes the work in the pose slightly. For me, it feels a little bit better, especially on this right side. You can support that bottom arm with that block, maybe the leg, or perhaps it's just hovering there. Pulling yourself back up. If you need to walk the legs out, feel free as you bend in just a little bit to that right knee. And then we'll plant the hands down and find downward facing dog. Big inhale, reaches that left leg up. Exhale, steps it through for your crescent pose. Opening out to that warrior 2. Straightening up that front left leg. Heel toe that back foot in just a little bit here to shorten that stance. Reach long through those left fingertips. Left arm comes down, right arm reaches up. A little bit of a long hold here. The legs are slightly together. To make it a little bit easier on the body. Of course, if it's uncomfortable, you can move the legs back out. It can also be a nice reminder that if you need to adjust the legs between poses as we work through flows, you're always welcome to do that. Take one more slow round of breath here in this little triangle. Pull yourself back up. If you want to walk the legs out for that last warrior two, go ahead, bending the left knee. And then plant the hands down. We'll meet in downward facing dog. Taking that final vinyasa if you'd like. Oh, I forgot I had fun things planned at the end of class too. Let's see, what time is it? Okay. We'll just do one of these. So, finding your way to tabletop position. If you have those blocks, those will be handy here. You need to pad up the knees, feel free. This should be a nice one. It's kind of an active stretch for those hips. So, from your tabletop position, we'll step that right foot forward between the hands. And this is where it's nice to have those blocks or whatever support you might have, and you'll want them up on the highest level here. The right foot is forward in a low lunge. Go ahead and tuck those back left toes under. So the idea here is to keep the hips at the level they are at. So you don't want the hips to lift and lower as we work through this here. You have those back left toes tucked. As you start to extend that left heel back behind you, and it'll lift that left knee, and then you'll start to feel a nice stretch through the front side of that back left leg. So again, you have to make sure that you keep those hips nice and low here. Go ahead and release that left knee down. Supporting yourself with the arms as you need, pressing strong into that right foot. Back left toes are tucked under. The hips stay low. All you're doing is pressing that left heel back behind you, and that'll help to lift that knee just a little bit as you start to straighten into that left leg. You don't have to do a lot here to feel that stretch sensation. Release that left knee down. Take it through just one more round here. So with those left toes tucked under, the hips stay nice and low. Starting to extend that left heel back behind you. Breathing here for about 3, for 2, and 1. Release the knee down. You can move those blocks off to the side. We'll shift back through our tabletop. Left foot steps forward between the hands here. Finding that setup to support the arms as you'd like. Finding that firm press into the left foot. Starting to tuck the right toes under. And this time the knee is a little bit further back, just so you have that setup. It's not directly under the hips like we did in our higher lunge variation. So that might give you a little bit more space here. The right toes tuck under. And then all you're gonna do here is keep those hips nice and low. As that right heel starts to extend back behind you, it'll lift that right knee slightly off the mat. Release it back down. 2 more rounds here. Right toes tuck under, extending that right knee back, finding that stretch sensation through the front side of that right back hip. Release the knee down. This last one will hold, so extending that right heel back. We breathe here for about 3. Those hips are still low for 2. And 1. Go ahead and release the knee down. Start to shift your way back through tabletop position. Take a moment here if you need a few rounds of cat-cow. Kind of getting out any last movements before we start to turn the corner. And when you're ready, go ahead and cross those ankles through so that way you can have a seat here. If you'd like to sit up on the edge of that blanket, feel free. Then we'll set up for our bound angle, that Baddha Konasana shape. So soles of the feet come together, knees open out wide. Maybe rock a little from side to side to kind of even out the weight here. And when you're ready, just allow that chest to fall forward over those legs. Shoulders are heavy, head is heavy. Maybe return to focusing on drawing that breath all the way down into the pelvis. In this forward fold here, you kind of look down towards the low belly and towards the pelvis. You can actually see the breath move in and out just slightly. We're about halfway through this one. Taking one final round of breath here in your forward fold. Gently bringing your chest up here. Use those hands to close the knees together like a book. And from here, we'll take the feet a little bit wide. So those knees are still bent here as the feet come a little bit wide. If you need, you can support yourself with those hands right behind you. But find a little bit of a lift in the chest here. And we'll start to find those tick-tocks from side to side. So similar to how we did when we were reclined down on our backs at the beginning. Let's take it a little bit slow here. You can allow the inner edge of that leg to reach all the way down towards the mat if that's comfortable. It'll be different for each of us. Finishing up that second side, and then we'll meet in center. You can release those legs out. We'll start to make our way down onto our backs from here. So you want to make sure you have that blanket, and if you have a block, one of those can be handy as well. Once you recline down onto your back, we'll take a little twist here. So I'll invite you to take that wide leg variation like we did at the beginning of class, but if you have something else that's calling out for you, feel free. You do have those feet wide with those knees bent. Just allow the legs to fall off to one side here. And again, you can find that same work of the inner edge of, for me, it's that left knee pulling down towards the mat. We won't be here for too long. Gently pulling the legs up through center. If you need to tick-tock from side to side, go for it. Setting up your variation of the legs and then allowing them to fall in the opposite direction. So my legs are over to the left here. So I'm finding a little bit of that activation of the inner edge of the right knee pulling down towards the mat. Gently pulling those legs up through center. Just kind of releasing out of that twist as you need. We'll start to set up for our supported bridge next. So if you have a block, you're welcome to use that. If you prefer something a little bit more comfortable, you can create a nice chunky fold with the blanket. And then from there, plant those feet down and lift the hips just enough to slide whatever prop you'd like underneath the low back. We'll just stick here in our basic variation to start. Just allowing your body to kind of acclimate to that prop there. You can, of course, stick with this variation, or if you'd like to try something here, you'll keep that left foot planted so that the knee points up towards the ceiling, and then you'll lift the right foot so that way you can thread it between the left heel and that left glute, and then allow that right knee to open out towards the right side. So that right foot is down on the ground. It's underneath that left knee. So it'll give you a little bit of a stretch through the front side of that right hip. Of course, if it's uncomfortable, you can return to that earlier variation. We won't be in this for too long here. You can kind of play with the placement of that right foot. Start to bring that right foot back so it plants down as the knee points up towards the ceiling. Pause here for a moment. If you'd like to switch it out for the other side, then that left foot threads between the right heel and that right glute, so that way the left foot can plant down. And then the left knee just opens out towards the left side. Again, taking care of that left knee, making sure that the low back isn't uncomfortable here. And sometimes you only need the stretch on one side, so if you don't like it on this side, that's okay. And taking your last round of breath on this side. Gently bringing that foot back through center to meet in our traditional supported bridge for our last few rounds of breath here. Pressing into the feet, lifting those hips just enough to slide the prop out of the way, and slowly release that spine down. Releasing out of the legs as you'd like, perhaps extending them long for a moment. And then we'll all meet again, just like the beginning of class, with the knees drawn in towards the chest here. And allowing those legs to open a little bit towards the outer edges of the body. And just taking a moment to pause and notice if there's any difference compared to the beginning of class and how the hips feel here. If there was an area of discomfort, perhaps notice if that's shifted at all. Or maybe the legs just feel a little different because they're likely fatigued now. Just kind of tuning in again to that general sense of how the hips feel here. If you need to get out any last movement here, feel free, beginning to make your way out of that Apanasana shape. We'll start to find our way into Shavasana, that final rest. So I encourage you to at least pat up the head with a blanket here. And then taking whatever variation with the legs is most comfortable for you. We'll take one final round of breath all together. So go ahead and exhale out the air you have. Take a nice deep inhale. Full exhale. And there's no more work, no more effort. And just the rest that your mind and body deserves. We'll see you on the other side. Start to invite some deeper breaths into the body here. Perhaps feeling those inhales expand all the way down into the low belly and the pelvis. And if you're ready, you can invite in some gentle movement here. Just whatever's calling out to you. You can, of course, stay on your back, or if you're ready to make your way over to one side, just bend the knees and roll off to one side. And using the strength of the arms, you start to press yourself up to a comfortable seat. And we'll close here together. Finding a moment of gratitude for yourself for showing up and taking this time. Hold on to this feeling for as long as you can. And come back to it as often as you can. Thank you for sharing your time and your practice with me. And until I see you again, the light in me honors and respects the light in you. Namaste. Have a wonderful rest of your day, a wonderful rest of your